Hello, my name is Levi and I just watched the Multiverse of Madness and I wanted to talk about it, so let's talk about it. But before we do, let me just ask you, are you happy? If you didn't get that reference, you probably didn't see the movie, so be careful, spoilers ahead. Also, this. This is just a placeholder, cause it got no intro yet. Well, it was bad, but it will do. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a real movie critic. Hell, I'm not even a real YouTuber. I'm just a casual nerd, and I like this movie, but I think it had some problems. Let's put it this way. Was this the best MCU movie ever? No. Was it a good MCU movie? Yeah. Did it have some cool fan service? Hell yeah. Was this a good movie by its own? Well, it depends. Martin Scorsese once compared Marvel movies to theme park rides. Like, they are not real movies, at least not in the classic sense of the word, and I kinda agree with him, and I don't think that this is a bad thing. While big franchises and movie universes seems to be the overall big thing these days, let's not forget this is relatively a new thing. The MCU is only 12 years old and still to this day, it is the only franchise that does this whole interconnected movie universe thing right. And it's not just movies. There are live action and animated shows and tie-in comics, so it's like a completely new form of entertainment. It's definitely not traditional cinema. I often tell to my friends who are not really into comic book stuff that you cannot judge an MCU movie by its own most of the times these days. And I say this because I don't think that the Multiverse of Madness in itself is a good movie. Now, don't get me wrong, I liked it, I enjoyed it, it was a good ride, but it didn't really feel like a movie to me, okay? It was more like watching a new episode of a show I really like. And it's particularly interesting if you compare it to the first Doctor Strange movie, which I think in itself is a good movie and one of the best MCU movies ever made, like objectively speaking. Let's just quickly compare the two movies. I know it's not gonna be a fair comparison, but still, it might be good just to refresh your memories what the hell happened in the first movie, because it came out 6 freaking years ago. The first Doctor Strange movie is an origin story with the typical element of a hero's journey. We start in the ordinary world, then we have the call to adventure, meeting with the mentor, then with the allies, tests, the enemies, the whole ordeal. The movie was basically about Strange realizing his true self by losing and reinventing himself. It worked because the audience went on a journey together with the character. It also worked because Benedict Cumberbatch played the shit out of this role, and the movie gave you time to breathe. It gave you time to take in all this new information. Considering how much information this movie had to shove down your throat, it's quite impressive that it actually just works. Just think about it. It had to introduce magic into the MCU, it had to tell you the rules of this magical world as well, it had to introduce the concept of the multiverse and different dimensions and just deliver a character drama. And it did it. If you think about it, the scenes between Strange having his accident and traveling into wizarding worlds are like proper dramatic scenes, and the acting by both Benedict Cumberbatch and Rachel McAdams is just top notch here. You really get the feel for the characters and their relationship. Like, you can see they love each other, but it's complicated love mainly because of Strange's ego. This unrealized love gets kind of like a new focus in the Multiverse of Madness, but the issue is that there is no real journey. Even though the characters literally travel through universes, there is no journey in the metaphorical sense. Or at least the journey doesn't happen in this movie particularly. Alright, there is kind of like a conclusion of a journey. The hero learns something, of course, because the hero always have to learn something. While you can still enjoy the original Doctor Strange movie without seeing any other movies in the MCU. To truly appreciate the Multiverse of Madness, you have to have seen not just the first Strange movie, but Infinity War and Endgame and No Way Home and WandaVision. And if you saw What If as well, that definitely helps. The hero's journey happened in all these movies, and the Multiverse of Madness feels like one step on a 1,000-mile journey. So that's why I say it's more like watching a new episode of a series rather than watching an actual movie. Alright, so let's talk about the plot real quick. In medias res, we start with Doctor Strange and the new girl on the block, America Chavez, running from some kind of interdimensional hentai monster to reach a magical MacGuffin. It turns out Hentai Harry is actually after America because of her powers to travel through the multiverse. Strange dies in the first scene, but don't worry, he wakes up. It turns out it wasn't actually our Strange. It was a different version from a different universe. And it also turns out when you dream, you actually see different versions of yourself throughout the multiverse. So hey, if you ever had that dream when you are just about to kiss your crush, then the alarm goes off and all the happy feelings go away, don't worry, champ. It's definitely happening somewhere out there. After opening the portal to escape the monster, America ends up on Earth 616, aka our Earth, gets saved by our Strange and gets taken into Camartage, and to protect her, they actually enlist one of the most powerful magic users of the MCU, Wanda Maximo. And this is where I realized that the trailers of this movie bamboozled me so bad, because it turns out it was Wanda all along. She wants America's powers because she wants her kids back, okay? You know what? You get it if you watch WandaVision. And I must say, Wanda, or rather the Scarlet Witch, slaps in this movie, alright? I mean, the strongest Avenger debate is officially over. The Scarlet Witch just mops the floor with everyone, and I mean everyone! Not even the full might of Camartage is enough to stop her, and to get away, America needs to open a portal to travel to another universe. And we actually learn that she can't control her abilities, it only happens when she's very scared, and man, I get it, because the Scarlet Witch is scary as fuck, okay? They actually put some legit horror elements into this movie, like when she imitates the movement of Samara from The Ring, so well done movie, well done! So, Strange and America find themselves in a new universe, but they don't get too much time to rest because we meet fun service! And mate, there's some banger fun service in this movie. Looking for help, they actually got captured by the Illuminati, and look, I'm not going to go into this and explain what the Illuminati is in the comics. What you need to know for this movie, that the Illuminati is basically the alternative Avengers. We get Captain Marvel, Captain Britain, Alternate Mordo, Black Bolt in a comic-accurate costume. I mean, we even got John Krasinski as Reed Richards, which is big because fans were asking for this casting for like years. Like, I don't know how many fan-made posters I have seen with Krasinski and Emily Blunt as Reed Richards and Sue Thomas. I mean, you know what? It's just great to see this happening. But the greatest thing for me was Charles Xavier in the yellow hovering wheelchair. I mean, man, I love Patrick Stewart, and there's just very few things that have as special of a place in my heart as the 90s animated X-Men show. So, when he rolled in and the familiar tune started to play, I legit burst a tear, man. However, it turns out that the Illuminati is more concerned about Strange traveling in the multiverse than they are about the Scarlet Witch. I mean, Smacked Marvel even says that if the witch shows up, they can handle her, which, spoiler alert, they can't, okay? Also, let me just say that this Captain Marvel is even less likable than Brie Larson's, and I think they did it on purpose. Anyway, the reason they are afraid of Strange is because this universe's Strange also messed with the multiverse and accidentally deleted a whole universe. So, you know, they are kinda concerned. To be frank, he just wanted to help. He was looking through the multiverse to find a way to stop Thanos, but he ended up causing more harm than help because he was acting alone. And eventually he got eliminated by the Illuminati. But before they can decide what to do with this Strange, Wanda just dreamwalks into the conversation and she slaps everyone! Captain Marvel is quickly proven wrong when Wanda takes out the whole Illuminati barefoot in her mom pants. Like, oh my god, this scene is brutal, okay? She literally turns Reed Richards into spaghetti and she cuts Captain Britain in half with her own shield, so turns out she couldn't do it all day. In the meantime, Xavier decides that they maybe, possibly, probably can trust this Strange and delivers his iconic lines from Days of Future Past.
Just because someone stumbles, loses their way, it doesn't mean they're lost forever.
Once again, I had chills. Xavier tells Strange that the magical MacGuffin that the other Strange was after is actually close, which is great because I like convenient MacGuffins, and he rolls off to face Wanda and die, and man, it was just sad to see Xavier die again. Anyhow, after punching Mordo a few times, Strange gets free and reunites with America, and this works Christine Palmer, also played by Rachel McAdams, and they actually get to the MacGuffin. But Wanda's catching up with them, she destroys the MacGuffin, she gets the girl, so things seem to be a bit shit at this point, right? You get me, fam? right? Things are a bit lost. Wanda sends Strange and Christine into that universe where they meet with evil Doctor Strange, who was so unhappy he started to look around the multiverse to find a version of himself who was actually happy, but he couldn't find any. And after this, he decided, you know what? I'm just gonna kill all Doctor Stranges. I just gonna do a favor for them, all right? And kill all of them. So he went on a strange killing spree. And here we got another cool fight scene, like one of the most creative fight scenes of the whole movie. So talking about the fight scenes, let me just say that in the first movie, we mainly only had like fist fights with some magic glowing, but in this movie, we actually have some really cool looking magic fights. And this fight scene between the two Doctor Stranges, let's just call the music fight scene, was one of the most creative scenes in the whole movie, and I loved it. After defeating evil Strange, our good doctor had to save America, and to do this, he needs to get back to our Earth, but it's not that easy. And this is when dreamwalking comes into the picture once again. You already heard me mentioning dreamwalking, but I didn't really explain it. So this is basically a dark spell where you kind of take control of your alternate self in a different universe, and this way you are able to travel through universes. But it's very risky and it's not without consequences. Also, there is the problem that Strange can't really take his own body in our universe because he is not there. But do you remember that Strange from the first scene? Well, luckily he got buried in our universe. So say hello to zombie necromancer Doctor Strange. Oh man. Oh. This was awesome. This was awesome, alright, but this wasn't enough to stop Wanda. Turns out, all Strange had to do is trust America. He delivers a little speech, she delivers a few punches, gets into action, but at the end, the one who really defeats the Scarlet Witch is Wanda Maximo. Okay, so that's the plot in a nutshell, and it was definitely eventful, and with all these things happening, it felt like a constant thrill ride, and I enjoyed it a lot, but it still didn't feel like a coherent movie by itself. It felt like a part of a much bigger story, or, you know, like an episode of a TV show, which, still great. It's still alright. I still loved it. It was like a crossroad where many stories meet, and honestly, I loved it, but I'm not sure if this is a good thing or a bad thing. But there's one thing I'm sure about. At this point of the MCU, this is inevitable.
I am inevitable.
So you know what? As long as you are into comic book shit and as long as you are up to date with the MCU, you will enjoy this. But what if you're not? To talk about this, I want to talk a little bit about America Chavez. So I liked America in this movie. Even though she barely does anything up until the end of the movie, she has some really good scenes with Strange, some really good bonding moments. And she's a character I didn't really know anything about before I went into to watch this movie. And this is because her character was invented at the time when I started to read less and less comic books, at around the early 2010s. And there are a few reasons why I really stopped reading comics for a few years. Well, first of all, this was a time when I went to university, and as you should, I dropped everything and I just started to drink and party for a few years, as you know, as you should when you go to university. You are not there to get an education, you are just there to have some good years before you go into the job market, kids. And that's gonna be brutal. Also, this was a time when Marvel just felt very chaotic for me. It felt like they were like constantly rebranding and doing these soft reboots with Marvel Now and all new, all different Marvel. And there was like a big world-changing crossover event in every year. And the X-Men got like all messed up and Cyclops killed Professor X. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what the fuck is happening here? I guess what I'm trying to say is that the early 2010s were the time when it just became very hard for me to try to keep up what's happening in Marvel land, at least in the comic books. But in the movies, that was also the time when the MCU really started to like blossom. That's a very weird way to say it. I remember that back in 2012, all my normie friends were like so hyped about the Avengers. And I also think that right now with the Multiverse of Madness, we are starting to reach the point when it's becoming harder and harder for normie or casual fans to keep up with the MCU. I just spoke to one of my friends who by all means you can call an average moviegoer, and he just watched Doctor Strange and he was like, what the fuck is going on? This movie basically expects you to be already involved in the MCU, to already have some background knowledge, which is not a bad thing in itself, but there are definitely going to be some people who are left behind. I already have friends who just gave up on ever catching up on the MCU, and I also had other friends who just called me or DM'd me to ask me to explain to them a few things that happened to Doctor Strange, because the movies sometimes just don't bother to explain things to you. Okay, I got a few friends who were just like really confused because at the end of the movie you can see Doctor Strange opening up his third eye right here. Third eye right here, alright? And previously in the movie we see Evil Strange doing the same thing, and people were confused like, what does this mean? Does it mean that Doctor Strange is evil now or something? And to be frank, the movie doesn't explain it to you. I know that in the comics, the third eye or the Eye of Agamotto is basically just a power boost, kind of like a sign of enlightenment, and it means that you just became more powerful than you were before. It also gives you some cool new powers, but I don't know how it works in the MCU and the movie never tells you. So maybe that's what they wanted. Maybe they were just going for like a cool cliffhanger and they're going to explain it in the next movie. I don't know, man, but it was a bit confusing even for me. I think the main reason this concerns me is that I love the MCU. I love these movies and shows, and Phase 4 have some of my personal favorites so far. And I'm just concerned how long they can keep it up going on this phase. I guess I'm just concerned that more and more people will fall behind and stop watching the MCU the same way I stopped reading comic books in the early 2010s. But you know what? I eventually came around. I started to read comics again, just with a more casual mindset, and I don't really give a damn about continuity anymore. Yeah, it is what it is. But that's just my opinion. What do you think? Did you like this movie? Did you think it was a good movie by itself? What do you think about the future of the MCU? And do you think Scarlet Witch is the strongest Avenger, or does she lose the title on the technicality because she's technically not an Avenger anymore? Let me know in the comments below. And if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. First of all, thank you, Mom and Dad. And yeah, like and subscribe if you want to, and hopefully I will be back with another video. So hopefully see you again. Bye. Ice cream. I should get some ice cream. I love ice cream.